Hi there, I'm Luke, welcome back to PhotoBite, and today we have a new member of the team.
Hi, I'm Josh, I'm the new video guy.
And today we'll be checking out the Nikon Z7. Let's get into it. So we've had the camera for about a week now. We've been testing out the video, we've been testing out the photo, seeing who it's for and who would use it. On my end of the things, I've been looking at photo. Josh, you've been looking at the video. So starting things off, we'll just go through the specs on the camera. You're looking at a 45 megapixel sensor, which is lovely. So same as the D850, although Nikon have said they've changed the sensor a little bit. On the viewfinder, it is an OLED viewfinder with a 0.8 magnification, which is great, which means you can literally look in the viewfinder and look around and see your frame. We now have a tilt screen, which is nice to see from Nikon. It's a 3.2 inch touchscreen, which is very, very handy. ISO range is more from 100 up to 5100, although retrospectively it's more towards 100 to 2500, because up past that you're looking at extreme grain, so it's not enjoyable to use. The photos are usable to a degree, but if you're using this camera, I would probably stick to a maximum of 12,800 on this camera. They've also gone with a new top LCD display, so it's a lot nicer, very futuristic, similar to what Fuji have done with their series. So we're not looking any more analog that we've seen in the film era. You're still rocking the EN-EL15A batteries, although this is the EN50LB, which means that when it's left in the camera, you can plug in an external battery and you can actually charge the battery up in the camera itself. So this can also do 9 frames a second, but that is only in JPEG. When you go into RAW, it's more towards 4 to 5. They do have now the XQD card, which is this guy. We'll talk more about that later on in the review because we have a few things to say about that. But overall, you know, it's a really good camera if you're a D850 user. I don't think it's worth upgrading to this. There really isn't that much difference in it. If you're going down the video route, I mean, there really isn't that much to it, really. I mean, it's what, 8-bit internal?
8-bit internal, no cine log profiles, unless you're filming externally, which you get the great 10-bit N-log feature, but it is not N-log internally, which is a really, you know, devastating.
Yeah, I mean, what's really annoying is the fact that they talk about and they rave about having N-log, 10-bit, 4K, full frame usage as well, none of this DX cropping that we're seeing at the moment, but you need to spend about £600 on an Atomos HD monitor, and then you got to pay for the external SSDs that go into that monitor and the battery. So that's quite a big investment, especially if you're coming from a photo background and you're trying to get into it. That's quite a big investment. I mean, I did the numbers earlier. You'd be looking towards about 4.5 to 5 grand as a full-on investment. And even with the new glass, I mean, I've had to play with it as well in the video. I wasn't impressed with the focus. Is a by-wire focusing, so it's not going to be smooth. You're going to want to go to cine lenses. There are adapters that are out there, such as MTF, who do actually make adapters that you can use. So what it actually enables you to do is use glass. So this is Nikon's FTZ mount and adapter, and what this allows you to do is use their original F-mount glass. So it's really, really handy to use. I've been using it with my own glass, and it gets the job done. The focus is a little bit slower. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing crazy. And if anything, I kind of expected Nikon to do this. If they didn't do that, then that's just a big mess up on their end. But they've done it and they've performed well. And you know what, it gets the job done, to be honest with you. When it comes to the lens ecosystem, Nikon are still quite small. You do get this 24 to 70 f4 all the way through, and it's an okay lens as long as you stay away from being a 70mm and f4, because the vignetting is terribly obvious. I kind of wish Nikon tried a bit harder. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they invested a bit more, if the lens was a bit wider. If you compare it to Canon's EOS R with their 24 to 105, that's, you know, it's a slightly bigger lens, it's a bit heavier. I think Nikon could have done a bit more to make it a bit more.
It's something they can kind of aid with in future updates for raw profile.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a shooter, you're getting into it, you can use this. I probably would recommend the 35 1.8. That one was a very good lens to use. I really enjoyed using it. Again, video, not so much. It's a by-wire focusing system, but just in general photos, I quite enjoyed using that over the 24 to 70. But shooting at 70, you can go up to f22. Now, I did get some really nice shots out of that, and the bokeh blur at f4 was all right. It wasn't anything special, but it gets the job done.
So in terms of video with the Z7, just not having any cine profiles or N-Log internally was quite a big issue for me. I couldn't really quite get a cinematic kind of style for it. I tested it at the 120 frames per second, which you can see here. It's for me, it just feels a little bit flat. It feels a little bit kind of lifeless in comparison to something like the A7 series. But just not having that N-Log or any inbuilt cine profiles is a pain. Just having the standard flat for me. Yeah. It's something I started with, but it's something, you know.
I think if you're a keen video shooter, you want that N-Log in the camera. Yeah. Retrospectively, I understand Atomos work with Nikon, so technically it's as much a product as it is for them than it is for Nikon. But at the same time, even if they just branded it was saying this is an Atomos product as well, you know, I think it would have helped adding the N-Log in there. And like you said, using the XQD cards, they are compatible for that kind of video. I mean, you can do 10-bit 4K and you easily do the 422 output internally.
Well, another kind of feature about this is the autofocus was great working with this, with the video online, just tapping on the screen. It's great to have, like, if you just have that on a gimbal, for instance. But the only thing I didn't really like about it was when you have like the Sony, for instance, you've got, you know, you have the focus and it kind of cinematically pulls it back. Doesn't do it too fast, too slow. With this, it's just boom, like that. It's a bit in and outy. So I found.
Yeah, because I was doing that as well, and I was playing, because you can change the speed of the autofocus, but even when you do that, it's still, all it really does is it just reduces the lag. It doesn't reduce that fade, that cinematic look that you want. It just kind of cuts to it faster and slower. It doesn't offer that cinematic ability to make a filmmaker's life any easier. I also found when I was shooting a bit of video, when I was testing out the photo, I did find that the inbuilt 5-axis stabilization, I felt like it was fighting me more than it was helping me. I felt when you have a subject in front of you and you want to go around it, I felt that the camera was kind of fighting what I was doing. If I'm doing a pan in that mode, it's perfectly fine, but the minute I'm going round a subject, it just doesn't want to help me. It just fights me at every little turn. And doing basic maneuvers up and down, left and right, fine. You try and get a bit more complex, it just doesn't want to help.
How did you find the rolling shutter on this?
The rolling shutter, it's okay. When you go full frame, I wouldn't touch it. The problem is that with a larger sensor, rolling shutter increases, and it's very, very hard for them to make a camera that doesn't. And you know, I think it's something that all cameras are going to struggle with. I think it's something that you're just going to have to find a way to put up with. They got a lot of programming to do. They got to get a better processor in there to help with that rolling shutter. But I mean, in the Nikon, I'd say it's usable. I wouldn't expect amazing results. We've got to be quite fair on Nikon here, because this is their first mirrorless camera. This is their first, well, I say mirrorless, their full frame mirrorless. They did have the J series, which did okay. That was kind of their introduction to mirrorless. But the Z7 is a real step up for most people. If you're coming from a D750 and you want a better video, you want more pixels, and you've got the money to invest, I think people would be quite happy with the Z7. I mean, I don't know if you've shot on the D750, but I have, and it's a massive step up. From a feel perspective, you know, it feels oddly like a Nikon. It really didn't surprise me. I could tell just by looking at it, it was going to feel like a Nikon because you have this grip that Nikon are known for, like a rubbery leather kind of feel. And what I am happy with, after shooting with Sony's for a bit, is this grip is a bit longer, so you're not moving the pinky off and it doesn't just kind of rest there. And when you're doing that, it hurts after a while. So it's nice. This is mainly applies to small hands, but it fits really nicely. You've got the joystick on the back, which is in a convenient place. Button wise, it's okay. I wish the control button to go around the menu was a bit more, well, it offered a bit more feedback. I found it a bit spongy, which is a bit annoying, but that's probably due to the weather sealing that they put in this. But it would have been nice to have a bigger dial. I mean, there's a bit more room on it. They could have gone a bit wider. I wouldn't have minded that. But the dials, you know, they feel okay. Yeah. They're quite stiff, which is all right. The last thing you want are some loose dials because it makes being a fiddler very bad, actually, because you do end up changing it a bit. They put the ISO button right on the top there, like you saw with the D750. And you got the contrast pretty much in the same place. On the side, if you're used to Nikon, you haven't got the buttons that sit on the side of the screen. This is mainly because of the LCD, so they moved everything to the side. I did find it does take a bit of getting used to with all the buttons down here, so you do have to kind of get used to moving your hand. When you do that, you do lose a bit of grip when you're holding it. But the joystick is in the right place. Again, when you go to reach that, if you haven't got your other hand under here to support it, it can be quite tricky and you do start losing the grip that you're after. But having that with the A7R3 when I was testing that out, I did find it kind of slipped because of that smaller grip.
Well, overall, it's a great photography camera, but not so much for video.
Yeah, I think, again, if you're coming from a D750, you're going to see this as a big upgrade. If you want to get into video, the opportunity is there. If you are coming from a full frame such as a D850, I do not see this as a viable upgrade unless you desperately want to switch to mirrorless and you want to pay that $3,000 that you do to get the Z7. However, I'm more interested in seeing the Z6.
Yeah,
I think that's more contender. It's more in line with the A7 III.
I think eventually, especially with the brand new mount of this, I think these cameras do have incredible potential. But for a first edition, it's the first camera they've kind of released. It has its problems.
We have to be fair. Yeah,
it's a great camera. I think overall, there are kind of better mirrorless ones out there. This does have great features with it. Each camera is kind of like unique for these.
Yeah, I mean, I think on Nikon's hand, the Z7, we are impressed with it, I mean, they've done really well as a first generation product in their lineup as a full frame mirrorless camera. It's nice to see that they brought out two, so they aren't just targeting one market, they're targeting both. We personally feel the Z6 is going to offer a bit more for most users. If you are a portrait photographer, wedding photographer, this is a good lens to go with, a good camera to go with. The lens choices are limited at the moment, but you do have the adapter. If you're coming from a filmmaking background, you've already got the Atomos, you've already got the Cine lenses, I would definitely say have a look at getting the body. It does offer some good video. We will be playing around with the N-Log with the Z6 when we get the Atomos to play with, but out the box video, what do you think?
Yeah, it's okay, but as soon as we see that N-Log feature, I think that'll be the tipping point for the new Nikon series for me.
Yeah, I mean, the raw files, I was out shooting with it, it handled really, really well. It was very easy to get used to. If you're a Nikon user, you'll get to know this camera pretty quickly again. Menu system's a little tricky because you do have some more features in there, so that will take a bit of getting used to. For others who are out there, this does and will come with a grip, so you aren't just limited to this. There is a grip coming out, so you can go with those longer battery life, go with that longer lasting life out of the camera. But testing the battery out, Nikon were claiming 330 shots. I got close to 800, and that was just on one battery. That was with their new one, which is the EL15B. So I was very impressed in that end.
Yeah, just the only issue is the hour-long record time with the battery for video in 4K. So you're kind of pushing like Sony territory there.
Yeah, you are
territory and stuff. So,
but you know what? I think Nikon has done well to disrupt the ecosystem of Sony's full frame. We're going to talk more about Canon with the EOS when we get our hands on it. But overall, we're very happy with the Z7. It does have its flaws, But we look forward to testing out the Z6 when that comes out and doing a real comparison between these two. So that's our little review of the Z7. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, my name's Luke.
My name's Josh.
And this is PhotoBite.